Be the Good is all about people doing good in the world while following their passions. Good for their own souls and for others. I'm Kate Cherichello, and welcome to today's episode. If you are enjoying these stories, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much. You can also join our Facebook community under the group title, Be the Good with Kate Cherichello. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world.
So today's guest on Be the Good is Mark Palm. He is CEO and co-founder of Samaritan Aviation, which offers life-saving emergency flights to the only hospital that would otherwise take days to reach by canoe, ongoing care and medical supplies, training, community restoration, disaster relief, and more in Papua New Guinea, one of the most remote places on the planet. And something that really resonated with me in researching you, Mark, and Samaritan Aviation is the focus on loving our neighbors as ourselves. And I loved that so much. So, Mark, thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here, Kate. Thank you.
So first question, as it always is, who are you and what do you do in your own words?
Yeah, wow. I feel like I've been able to live several lives over my lifetime. But just, for me as a person and as Samaritan as an organization, we work in one of the most remote areas of the world and with the goal of really being the hands and feet of Jesus. And some of the things that we're doing is directly impacting the maternal death rate in a region where there's 500,000 people, one hospital. And so, one of the worst maternal death rates in the Asia Pacific Rim, and we're able to help lower that. We're getting medical supplies out to places where before we got there, it took 6 months to get medical supplies. We can get them right out there within an hour flight. We're able to go out and stop cholera outbreaks, for example, or other sickness outbreaks. And, we do all this at no charge to the people. And so it's just, for me, it's an amazing opportunity really to love your neighbor as yourself, to do that in a way without expectation. We're just so blessed to be able to serve. We can see a need, we can respond, and we're a small enough organization where we don't have a lot of bureaucracy or red tape. And so when there's a need, we can go right now. And that's what we've been doing in Papua New Guinea for the last 12 years, just reaching remote communities, offering access and hope. And we do that using seaplanes. And we're the only seaplanes in the country, and we're operating on a 700-mile river. And these airplanes allow us to give access and hope to over 128 villages that we serve each year through medevac 7 days a week, through medicine deliveries, through disaster relief. And also we do community health trainings and train up nurses and do leadership training in the villages as well. And so, I guess for me, it's just been an amazing journey. That started young as a young man, and I'm still living the dream today, and I feel like just getting started actually.
Wow, just to hear all that you do, and yet you still describe it as a very small organization. So I can only imagine how much each person who is involved is giving, heart and soul to everything, because wow, you're doing so much at once. And tell me more about how you created Samaritan Aviation. I know that you have a history in aviation, and also how you picked this specific area of the world.
Yeah, for me, I'm one of 5 boys. My father was a minister. My grandfather was a World War II pilot, and I've had a couple uncles that fly. My cousin flies military and commercial, and so just having that aviation background. And then as a teenager, I moved to Santa Cruz, California, with my family, and my dad started running a homeless mission. And basically the idea was, it was a Christian organization, but we want to feed people, and then we want to tell them about who God is. And but being able to go in and help people, even as a young age, at 13, 14, I started going down and serving food to the homeless people, giving them blankets when they were cold, and when the rain came. Even in California, it gets cold and by the ocean. And just the basic tangible things, not just talking about something, but actually doing something. And that had a huge impact on my life. And then my church youth group, we went down to Mexico to build houses. And so I had a chance to go down as a 16-year-old. And all of a sudden, I'm transported into 30 miles from San Diego, and now I'm in another country, and people are living in cardboard boxes, some of them, and just seeing another culture, and realizing we're kind of 90% or whatever the rest of the world lives in a lot harder areas than we do, and realizing how blessed we are here in America, and had a chance to build houses for some families. And that was just amazing to be able to use. I wasn't a builder or anything, but just the idea of pounding nails and working alongside the family and doing something that could change a life. I think that had a huge impact. And then for me, we do a little devotional every morning, and I was sitting on this old abandoned well down in Mexico, and I just felt God speak to me, and it hasn't happened since. So it's been but it was very clear at that point that what I heard was, Mark, I want you to use your passion for people in aviation to share my love in a remote part of the world. And I went back home to Santa Cruz, and it's like, okay, now what? What do I do now to respond to that very clear message that I received? And so as an 18-year-old, I found myself in Florida, going to a small school. Met a guy there that had been born in Papua New Guinea. And, as I thought about Papua New Guinea, it kind of clicked all those boxes of people in need and remote. I'd read about the country in National Geographic as a kid, and it was kind of like the headhunters, and it was like this really remote, rugged place. It has a fifth of the world's languages. 80% of the people live in remote communities that are isolated and really lack of access. And so we made a plan, and I ended up over in Papua New Guinea as a 19-year-old. For the first time, and had a chance to go into these remote communities and just live with the people in the bush houses and eat with them, fish with them. You take baths in the ocean. You just live in life and seeing the struggle, really, seeing the happiness too. They're very family oriented, and very a happy culture, but then also seeing the struggle and the lack of access, and just really the lack of access for medical help, medical supplies. And when there's an emergency, how hard it is to get into anywhere that they can find help. And so, that really was the basis for Samaritan Aviation. All of a sudden, we started asking the question, like, what if we could turn a 3 to 5 day trip to the hospital down to an hour? What if we could bring anti-venom out to someone when they got bit by a poisonous snake? What if we could bring a midwife out to these remote villages when there's a pregnancy or a partial birth, a retained placenta, or sickness? What if we could go stop a sickness outbreak? And because we kept hearing these stories of people dying trying to get to the only hospital, mothers dying on the way, babies dying, and people honestly not even trying. Because if you could even wrap your head around being 3 days away from the nearest hospital, and say you get bit by a poisonous snake and you have 8 hours to live, why would you even try after a while? And that's really what was happening. And so just the hopelessness of that, and looking at this 700-mile stretch of river, there's 250,000 people that live on this river. There's one hospital, and all those people are 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 days away by canoe and by road to get into that one place. And so it's like, okay, there's nobody doing it. There's a 700-mile runway, really, if you have a float plane, and there's all these people living there without access to hope. And so we started dreaming, and that's really where Samaritan Aviation came from. And so it's just so exciting to now, 22 years later, we started the organization in 2000. Took 10 years to actually get over there, telling the story, trying to raise awareness, trying to tell anyone who would listen about the dream. It was a long road. You talk about the path. It was a long, windy path, but we just felt like it was we called it an adventure in faith. And every year, as we look back, we could see that we were closer to the goal than we were the year before. So we just never gave up. And finally, after 10 years, my wife and my 3 kids, and a 4, 5, and 7-year-old, and we arrived in Papua New Guinea finally. And in January 2010, a month later, the airplane arrived in a 40-foot container, our first seaplane, and I put that together with a bag of tools in the capital and flew it in about five hours to the place that we operate today. But yeah, what an amazing journey. And to be able to sit here now and go, wow, thousands of lives have been saved through our emergency flights, thousands of mothers, babies. Uh, uh, we've been able to stop sickness outbreaks. The year before we came to New Guinea, 3,000 people lost their lives from a cholera outbreak in the same areas that we work. And since we've been there, we've helped stop several of these sickness outbreaks, and we've only lost a few lives over those time periods. And so you're stopping. You're having 5 people pass away instead of 3,000. I mean, those are big changes. And so the organization has just had this impact to really just love people, and we've done it for no cost. And now it's not just me and my family. For 5 years, it was just us in New Guinea. I was flying the plane, fixing the plane. My wife was driving the ambulance, giving me the weather reports. I would drop off a patient. My wife, Kirsten, she'd have the 3 kids with her, put the patient in our van, drive them to the hospital. I'd take off again to get another patient. And we just did that for 5 years, sometimes working 20 some days in a row because the emergencies just wouldn't stop, but we just kept going, and just so exciting now to see, we have 10 families on staff now. We have 6 pilots and a medical director and a maintenance director. And just to see all of these people that have now caught the vision and are as committed as we are. These people are moving their families to Papua New Guinea 2 years at a time. They're raising their own support to do this from their friends, families, and churches. And, we feel like we're finally we have 3 airplanes now. We're growing, and the capacity that we have to really do more. And that's really what's exciting is to reach more people, to save more lives, and to love people. And that's really, as you look at the foundation of what is Samaritan Aviation, it comes from the story in the New Testament where Jesus talks about loving your neighbor as yourself. And that's one of the 2 commandments he gave us. And the second commandment is love your neighbor as yourself. And, what does that mean to us here in the world? And for us, Papua New Guinea, they are our neighbors, and we're called to love them as ourselves. And so that's what we've been striving to do for the last 22 years, 12 years in country now. And just being that light, that beacon, that and offering that hope, because hope is a very powerful thing. When you have hope, it's very powerful. And when you lose hope, it's devastating. And so for us, it's offering access, it's offering hope, and it's being, we call it grace in action. With no expectation, we just accept this free gift, and we're going to pick you up in your village. We're going to take your wife, your daughter, your husband, your mom, whoever it is in the village that needs to be saved. We're going to fly them into the only place they can go to get the help that they need. And we can do that at no charge. And it's just been an amazing journey, and just, really excited to see the future as we continue to get more families, more aircraft. And we're looking at expanding even to the other side of the island, where there's another whole area that has the same issues. And but anyway, just so excited to just tell the story, those ideas of what if we could do this, and then now to be able to say that is what we're doing, and we've accomplished more than we could ever have dreamed in the last 12 years. And it's all about the team. It's not about me or it's my wife, or it's about us being willing to go, and the team that we have being willing to go. And then it's about all the people that sent us. We don't have the resources to buy airplanes. We don't have the resources personally to buy fuel, to go over and raise that $1.5 million that we need every year to operate. But because we have all these partners here in the States, they can't go, but they can give. And so it's been really awesome to have that partnership with people that send us. So I have the call to go, but other people have the call to give. And so it's all of us working together as a team that allows us to make the impact that we're having. And so that part really is exciting to me as I go around and share stories with people that have supported us for, even 8 years before we even got to New Guinea, and this faithfully monthly giving money, believing in the dream. And that's exciting for me to be able to go back now and say, thank you. Here's a life that was saved because of you, because of your generosity. And yeah, so that's always exciting. And I, we recently celebrated 20 years. We're 2 years late because of COVID. A couple of weeks ago, even in Phoenix, and just talking about just the miracles, and we call them God moments, but just the miracles that have happened over the years. This thing is so much bigger than us, and that's also what's exciting, as being part of something bigger than yourself. And so having those to be able to look back and go, wow, that I didn't do that, that was just like, we prayed and we worked hard. We had, we didn't stop, we didn't give up, but just miracles that happened through other people. And that's what's awesome too, is to be able to make a difference collectively. And especially when I think of Americans, Papua New Guinea is 7,000 miles away. It's north of Australia. Most people in America don't even know where it is. 8 million people, second largest island in the world, all of these things. And yet people in America that have no idea how to even relate to that are willing to give sacrificially so that we can go share God's love. And so that's exciting. And so now I go back and forth now, but I get a chance to tell people thank you and try to inspire other people to do something with their lives and to make a difference.
There is so much there that I wanted to highlight and, put exclamation points around. The one piece though that I just kept going back to too, amongst all the obvious aspects, was that concept of you had an idea and you were called to this passion and this need, but it didn't happen right away. Like, you took 10 years of fighting to make it happen and praying and listening and working hard towards it. And then finally you got to just start by going over there. And then 5 more years where it was just your family doing all that you could. And then to build this whole other network on top. I talk about just perseverance and not giving up, like you mentioned, and that hope word is such a big word and so needed, just to remind yourself of keep going, whether it's something like this, whether it's another passion, whether it's, hope in a person, in a relationship, in, any organization. That is so huge. And I can't get over that, how many years it took. And now look at what you've made.
They always say nothing good comes easy, right? I mean, I think I've heard that as a saying, but nothing worth anything anyways. But yeah, I think that's I always said I guess I have the gift of stick-to-itiveness. I don't even know if that's a word, but just this idea that I have the plan and I've just got to keep going until I can't go any farther. And that was really, and then have a wife, my wife, Kirsten, 24 years now, and her adventurous spirit to go with me and do this with me. And then the kids to be involved. And, all of that is just amazing. And we've had an amazing journey. Our kids are graduating from high school now. And so things are changing. I'm getting older, but it's really exciting for me to see these new families going over with their kids. And it's the same idea, which it's not about the husband going off and doing a job or the wife, if she's the one that's has a role, going off and doing her job. It's about the families working as a team. The kids are involved. And I think that's really why a lot of families are starting to come and want to join the team, because they want to do something as a family. They want to make a difference. Not just themselves, but with their kids and expose their kids to just the idea of giving back and loving your neighbor, and to experience life in a way that, in America, it's we gripe about, we call it first world problems or whatever. And, that's probably the hardest thing for us when we come back, because, all the friends that we have are kind of griping a lot of times over these kind of silly things, honestly. And, you're watching a baby die in the plane, or a mom that's struggling to get life, or just all of the stuff that we see over there. And then little things don't really matter as much. So that's kind of one of the harder things for us to deal with, honestly, is just the issues that people have in America are so much. There's still issues and they're important, but it's such a big difference between people just trying to get medical supplies, people trying to live, and versus just, hey, I want a new car or whatever. So it's just a whole different perception that you get when you live in those areas.
And you just said one of my favorite words of the last 2 years: perception and perspective.
Hmm.
And you just said perception, and both of those, they're so important to always keep in mind.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, do you have any, I mean, you already gave so many good news moments on a grand level. Do you have any of those stories of specific people you've worked with? People that you've saved, kids you've seen, get the supplies they need over there in Papua New Guinea?
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you story after story.
I bet, years worth.
Yeah. One of my favorites, and it's my favorite for many reasons. But we went around, like I mentioned, for 10 years telling the story. Like, if we could just get there, we could save lives. These people are dying trying to get to the hospital, and that's how, we're selling a dream, really. Because we've never done it before. Young, we didn't look, we looked very young at the time, and we'd never done it. And so you're spending a lot of money. Aviation's very expensive. So, so then to finally get there, and then it's like, okay, so we started delivering medical supplies. No one had been in a seaplane in this area in 40, 50 years. It's a super dangerous area. This river is 1,000 feet wide, but it'll rise and fall up to 20 feet in a couple days. And so sometimes there's no docks on the side of the river. Sometimes you're docking the airplane between palm trees that are 20 feet apart. Sometimes the wing's over the bank of the river. Sometimes the bank of the river is 20 feet above the airplane. Sometimes there's a sandbar that's 3 feet out of the water that wasn't even there last week. It's 1,000 feet wide, and crocodiles in the river, and people in canoes, and whirlpools and debris. And so, it was a lot initially just to even go, where can we land? How do we operate safely? And so, we started by delivering medical supplies into a few different areas that we knew we could get into. And then, I'll never forget that first call, after all these years. And we get this call. It's Good Friday, 2010. And they said, hey, we have a mother here who's been in labor for 3 days, and she's unconscious. We have no way to get her in. Can you help? And so I still remember putting that stretcher in the airplane and putting the fuel in. And of course, it's raining and weather's kind of bad, and getting the nurse in and taking off. And 40 minutes later, pulling up on the side of the river on the muddy bank, and it's raining, and I see this group of people running along the side of the bank, and I see them. There's a stretcher in between them, and they bring this unconscious mother to the plane, and a nurse, and we load the patient in. And when you're flying an airplane like that, the patient's head literally is about a foot away, because they're in a small plane and the stretcher's right behind the seat of the co-pilot seat. So you can see the patient there, and I could just see she's totally unconscious. I don't even, I can see she's breathing, but that's about it. You don't know if she's even going to make the flight. And then to rush her into the hospital, and they took her in for emergency surgery. We went home. It was afternoon. And the next day, I remember my wife and I, and the 3 kids, we went down to the hospital, and we just wanted to see, did she make it? And then, to walk into labor recovery room, and there's this mom sitting there holding this baby boy. And just seeing 2 lives that are alive because of the, not just because of all of the hard times to get over there, not just because we worked hard, but because people believed in it and allowed us to go and sent us. And for me, it was just kind of this validation, all of the years. Here was 2 lives that are saved. And the story that goes on is that they asked us to name the baby, and my wife and I are like, name the baby, like, that's not in America. That's not what you do. Your people don't ask you to name their kids. And so it was just like, wow, we got to go home, and we got to figure this out. We got to have a name that means a lot. And we spent several hours trying to come up with this perfect name for this little boy. And we walked back in, and we had it all typed out on a piece of paper. And we said, hey, we have the name for the baby. And they said, well, yeah, never mind. We've actually named him Mark after you. And so, there I am. I've got a baby Mark sitting there. And just, it's been cool over the years, to spend time with Mark. He's now 12 years old, and or will be here in a couple of weeks. And so to be able to go back and see his mom, Antonia, and see him in the village, his dad, his sister, over the years, what a highlight that's been. And just once again, that reminder of wow, we were allowed to follow this dream. We were allowed to go save these lives. And we've repeated that stories, over and over again, from snake bites and seeing kids that have come back from being delirious and frothing at the mouth, and getting them the anti-venom, to have them walking around 2 days later and going back home. And just story after story of 40% of what we do as mothers and babies, and then sicknesses from malaria, tuberculosis. They still are fighting each other sometimes, and so they're using bow and arrows and machetes and spears, and so you're dealing with some trauma things as well. But just saving lives, offering hope, offering access to these areas where there is none without us, and doing it at no charge. And that's really, for me, it's just a picture of God's grace in our life. And that's what Samaritan's all about. And that's, like I said, I could tell you story after story, and but that's a special one for me.
Wow, very much so. Do you have any quotes and sayings that have gotten you through these, especially the hard times when you're rushing to a hospital and you have no idea if a person's going to make it, or what you tell the people you work with over and over again?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like one of the challenges with this area of the world is the needs are so great. And I think for me, it's really part of my job moving forward is to protect our culture and protect our vision, because what happens is there's that saying is you can't do, you can do everything, but you can't do everything well, and so this idea of how can I be focused and do that well versus just trying to, because the needs just overwhelm you, especially when you first get there. And you really have, it's one of the hardest things to do, because you want to help always, but to realize, look, if I do that, I can't do what I'm here for and do that well. And so that's really something I preach a lot to the team. And it's funny because I tell this to my kids too, but the need, just even what we do seems overwhelming sometimes, and there's so many different layers. And there's that old saying, I don't know why it always sticks with me, but it's like, how do you eat an elephant? And it's one bite at a time. The idea that you just can't focus on this huge obstacle. And that's kind of how we survive getting Samaritan off the ground. It's taking it one step at a time, and then it's looking back and saying, okay, we're farther along than we were last year. We're not there. And so we have to continue to keep that mindset, because otherwise you just get overwhelmed and you get paralyzed, really is what happens, because you just can't handle the enormity of it all. And so, as you look at whether it's domestic abuse over there, which is really high, 70% of women are abused over there. And just in the culture where the man is, kind of put forth as the most important person in the village, or the boy, just as you see things, and you're trying to educate and try to bring value, equality over there as well. But you just have to realize, look, this all isn't going to be solved today. And we've just got to start and do what we can. And you've got to start with one person. And that's how it works. And so that's really the constant drumbeat that I give to our staff. And one person at a time. Do what you came here to do, and do what you do well. And that's what's going to make the longest lasting impact.
It really is. I feel like that could also answer this last question, but I'm going to ask it again. If someone came to you and they wanted to make a difference somehow, and they didn't know where to start, what would you tell them?
One of my favorite things to do is to challenge people to do something. You don't have to go to Papua New Guinea to make a difference. You don't have to fly airplanes. You don't have to save people. You don't have to bring medical supplies to remote communities. There's needs all around. All you have to do is stop and look around. Our neighbors are in need. There's people that are sick. There's people that have lost kids, lost spouses. There's people that are homeless in our communities. And so my big challenge is do something, start somewhere. You're not going to solve all the problems, but once again, but if you can just go out and go volunteer at a homeless shelter, for example. Get your kids involved with that. Go help moms. Go help the orphans, or go help work in a community. There's all kinds of programs where people are helping others, and so I'm just like, get involved in your church, do something in your community. There's needs everywhere, but you got to start. If you sit around and wait for this perfect moment that you're going to be a hero or something, that's not what it's all about. It's extending a hand, it's opening a door, it's giving of yourself, and for, if you can get over down to Mexico, or you can get to another country and be part of a team that makes a difference, that's a lot of times that's more for you than it is for them, honestly. But that will change your life. And if that's what it takes to change your life, to springboard you into something even greater, then I say, go do it. And, until you go see that, you really can't totally understand what it's like to live that way. And so do something, find opportunities, pray for opportunities to love your neighbor as yourself, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in your community. That's, to me, is where it starts.
So now if people do want to get involved with Samaritan Aviation some way, to donate or to find out more about how they can help, where can we follow you and find you online? And give us all the links, and they'll be in the show notes as well.
Yeah, we need partners to keep doing what we're doing. We're growing, we're expanding, more staff, more airplanes. We're trying to expand in another part of the country of Papua New Guinea. And so you can go to SamaritanAviation.org. Check us out there. We have stories, media stories, videos, what we're all about. You can see our staff that's on there. There's also ways to get involved if you want to volunteer. You can also go to Facebook, Instagram, follow us. We have stories every couple times a week of lives changed, lives saved. And I go around and speak different places. And so also there's opportunities if we're in your area. We'd love to come speak at your church, to come speak at there's businesses that support us as well. If you have a business, if you want to hear the story or have a share, we're happy to come and visit. And we're just telling the story and asking people to see how they can help continue the mission that we've started.
Excellent. And there's a fantastic YouTube video too that has an overview that I'll put in the show notes as well. And it's on the website. Great. That I just found so powerful. Mark, I cannot thank you enough for your time and just sharing your heart today, because wow, there's so much happening that you are doing that is just incredible work. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. We're excited to share the story.
Thanks so much for listening to Some More Good News with Kate Cherichello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.